Hi everyone, how are you doing today? Welcome to the second Facebook Live session that we're having in February of this year. Usually we only have these sessions once a month, but as some of you may know, this is a really important month because it's also Low Vision Awareness Month at the same time as it being AMD Awareness Month. So we thought it was important to do something for this, and as you will be able to notice, we're not in our usual location, which is the Foundation Fighting Blindness office in Toronto. I'm here with Dr. Anna Juricic, who is an optometrist who specializes in low vision, and we're in her office today. So thank you so much for having us here.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, this is a great opportunity for us to talk about someone who specializes in what so many of you are interested in and what so many of you ask questions about, which is assistive technologies, low vision technologies, and things that we can do to actually help individuals see better or to manage their sight a little bit better. So that's going to be our focus today. And we're also at the Foundation Fighting Blindness big fans of Dr. Juricic because you've been involved with the Foundation Fighting Blindness for some time now. You were involved in Cycle for Sight.
Yes, since 2012.
2012. And you cycled in Cycle for Sight, or?
Oh, absolutely.
You have?
Yes,
okay.
yes. This will be my 7th year cycling, and when I cycle, I actually do it on a tandem bike. And my cycling partner, first 3 years was completely blind, and the last 3 years he's visually impaired. So that's been a big thing for me to be a good give back to all my patients, especially for a great cause with vision research.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for your involvement in that. I don't know if any of you have seen a tandem bike in action, but I was first kind of introduced to them at a Cycle for Sight last year, and it's incredible. It's incredible to see, that form of cycling. It's really a different experience altogether, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Being on a tandem bike.
Yeah, and you definitely learn about communication very quickly
right.
on a tandem bike.
Yeah. Relationships are made and broken on tandem bikes, I guess, right? So yeah, you've been involved in Cycle for Sight, and then you've also been involved in Vision Quest as well in the past, which is our educational programming.
Yes.
You've come to offer some of your expertise in low vision in the past, so we appreciate that as well. So we're going to move into some questions, and many of you have been asking questions and providing comments over Facebook, so that is much appreciated, and we're going to dive into those. But first, I'm just going to give Dr. Juricic a bit of space to talk about the work that she does and really, how she approaches helping patients who are living with vision loss and blindness.
Great, thank you, Chad. So as Chad mentioned, I wanted to just first talk about giving insight of how a low vision examination is put together. So when I see a patient, number one that I always want to find out from the patient is what is their vision goals. If someone says they want to be able to read and looking at the TV is not as important, we'll definitely be focusing more on addressing the issues associated with reading, being able to also see things up close, their medication, their dinner plate. Whereas I have other people who going to the theater is something that's very important to them. So we'll focus on different aids that can help them do that. So it's always very much catered to how can I help my patient see the things that are most important to them so they can be independent and enjoying things again. And so the way I always start off is, like I said, the vision goals. And after I've done that, I always see, is there anything more I can do when it comes to glasses? Because a lot of the patients always ask, is there anything more that can be done in terms of glasses?
Right.
And there's sometimes ways that I can tweak a prescription to give enhanced vision. And that's really important because that's going to be the starting foundation of all the other things I'm about to show the patient. And often when we talk about these various vision conditions and vision disorders, there's only a certain limit that the glasses are able to help. And at that point, we have to address how can we still maximize the vision that the person still has. And most people who are even legally blind have some usable vision, so we can address that. And so after we've done the prescription and seeing if we can help with glasses traditionally with a little bit of tweaking, I then go into the area of glare. A lot of people have issues, not just with the glare outside in the sunlight, it's also indoor glare. And what we have found is it's actually the blue wavelengths of light that cause more scatter in the eyes. And that's what's causing the glaring issues. And traditionally, we've had specialized blue blocking lenses that had an intense color. It would be the Corning yellow or orange lenses, and I actually have some just to show the audience. So we'd be able to prescribe these glare filtering lenses, which work with various conditions, like macular degeneration. Usually they do better with this yellow or the lighter orange. Somebody who has retinitis pigmentosa often would do better with a more intense, but this would be more for the outdoor. And the interesting thing is, these colors don't necessarily work with everybody. However, we have to test it to see. And it's very simple. You either like it or you don't. And what's actually happened really in the last 2 years, which has been exciting, is that because a lot of people are on these screens, it could be that they're on the computer monitors, they're on their smartphones, they're on these iPads and tablets, the amount of blue wavelengths of light that are being emitted cause a lot of computer strain and glare. And so the lens manufacturers have actually come up with some new blue blocking lenses that are actually virtually clear, has a little bit of a tint to it, and it cuts out the blue wavelengths of light about 90 to 95% of what the traditional Corning lens is. And for some of the patients, they seem to prefer this, and if this does work for them, the nice thing is that when you actually have it on, somebody can't tell that you're wearing a special tinted lens.
Yeah,
so amazing. This is actually something that's helping not only people who are on computers who have good vision, it's also helping my patients who have the various vision impairments. However, I always try all the different ones because whatever works best for the patient is the one that we should be recommending.
Sure, yeah. What a difference between what you just tried on there and some of the examples that you showed.
Absolutely.
This is specifically for glare, right?
Exactly.
So it helps with glare. It's not necessarily going to increase visual acuity or anything along those lines, but we know that individuals who are living with some vision loss already will suffer more from something like glare. Like it's just more of a distraction because you're already dealing with a limitation to the visual spectrum.
Absolutely, and when you actually eliminate some of that glare, they seem to feel like they're seeing a little bit better. Or the contrast might be a little bit better, especially with the more intense colors. In addition to cutting out the glare, what it also does is helps increase contrast. So it helps differentiate things a little bit better, and that's why they've always still been a great recommendation for some of our patients with low vision. So after I've addressed that part, I look at the near viewing, what was important for them based on their vision goals when it came to near viewing. And so many of the patients I see, reading is such an important goal for them. They used to be avid readers, and now, especially if they have macular degeneration or Stargardt's, especially because it affects centrally, they're not able to read anymore, and it really affects them. And a lot of people with vision loss actually can even get clinically depressed because they're not able to do the things that are really important to them as they once did. So I introduced different magnifiers, and we first start off with traditional because people are aware of traditional. So we have these dome magnifiers, and this works well for somebody who's at the beginning stages. And also I find that some of my RP patients, if they have fairly good central vision, but they need that little enhancement, it helps magnify just enough to give them that extra bit of vision and help reduce fatigue. This is also a really popular one with a lot of my younger patients, the school-aged patients, especially if they have a condition called nystagmus. Nystagmus, often that shakiness of the eyes, causes them to have really poor vision in the distance. Up close, as it converges to look up close, the shakiness slows down. But there's a lot of fatiguing, and so the dome magnifier gives them that extra bit of vision that they need, and it helps with the fatigue factor. So this is one that we still do quite a bit with based on the condition.
That's nice. It's also quite discreet too, right?
Absolutely.
You can imagine if you're not necessarily wanting to be out there, you're not ready to have a cane.
Especially for my younger patients, my school-age patients, I'm really a big fan to show them various aids that are a little bit more discreet. And not something that is more that traditional adult magnifier, and then everyone's like, well, why do they have to use that magnifier? Something like this, it looks like a paperweight, and it actually starts conversation, and other people, well, that's cool, can I try it? So this is a one that I still do quite a bit with.
That's great.
And then when it comes to magnifiers, a lot of people are always aware of the illuminated magnifiers, the handheld, and this can work at the early stages, but a handheld magnifier was never designed for extended reading. So to read the newspaper, it's very tiring, especially if someone has arthritis, their arms go up and down a lot, so that actually affects the quality of the vision. And so I like what Eschenbach did with this one. It's a traditional hand magnifier, but they also include a stand that it can slide into. Then you can put it over top, and it gives more stability as they're reading for long periods. And with the stand, you can actually place it vertically up. So if somebody was into hobbies, they can actually do some hands-free, trying to prepare things. So they've been really smart to try to make it multifunctional. And I love companies who look to see how can they make things more accessible for the end user. So they did a nice job with that.
It's such a simple thing, right? But it kind of transforms the
and
device.
they're the only ones that are doing it currently, so I'm really impressed with what they've done there. But what I really like is actually the portable digital magnifier. So this is another one from Eschenbach that it's actually a portable digital magnifier. This screen is a 7-inch screen, and they have some that are a little bit smaller. I can zoom in, zoom out. I can actually change the contrast so that way help someone see a little bit better. And I find that about 7 out of 10 of my patients prefer the black background, either the white on black or the yellow on black. And what they also did is they actually made it where it can actually scroll by hitting 2 buttons where it can go back and forth. Now what I'm actually really super excited about is at the beginning of February at a Florida Low Vision conference, Eschenbach just released their new version. It's going to be 12 inches, and they actually made a touch screen. So instead of having to always press the buttons, you'd be able to do like the tablets or smartphone to magnify, but also with your finger make the text move. So this is one that I actually just ordered this week. I'm hoping to have it in the next 2 weeks. I'm excited because, again, they've upped things. And they also still have the buttons on the side that if you wanted to still have that tactile feel of how to scroll, that's still there. So again, really smart design and looking how can they improve. So I'm excited to be bringing that one in,
That looks
and
like a
hopefully
great
within
device.
the next 2 weeks. So it's quite exciting.
It's kind of just like holding a tablet over whatever you're reading.
Exactly.
Right? And when you're moving that around, it's going back and forth tracking. Is the camera actually moving, or is it just doing something different?
I've been seeing the videos, and depending on the screenshot of how much of the viewing area, it's captured it, you've now zoomed it, and it knows to actually scroll
so it captures the
So
energy.
really impressive technology. I'm not sure how they've done it, but I'm actually pretty impressed. And the best part, it's going to weigh about 2.2 pounds. So it's almost like you have your laptop, you put it in a case, so it's portable. Because up to now, whenever it came to the bigger screens, we would always reference back to the big CCTVs. And probably a lot of your users have the CCTVs or the audience, and those I always used to refer to as the Lexus of reading machines. Now the only thing is they weigh about 40 pounds, so you can't transport it very easily. It's just, you know, if you have the real estate in your home, it has a place. But you can't be taking it to the cottage, or if you're visiting a family member out of town. Where the new Visiolux XL FHD, 2.2 pounds, you put it in a case and away you go. So really impressive.
It's kind of like the difference between a laptop and a desktop, I suppose, right?
Exactly.
You have one of those older machines, it's a desktop, you put it on your desk and you leave it there.
Great example, absolutely. Now, after I've done the reading, I actually then like to show various things for distance. And the one that I have in my hand came out a few years ago from a company called Occutech in the US. And I love the work from Occutech. I've been using Occutech products now for almost 20 years. And what they did was they actually created this little portable telescopic clip that you can actually easily mount onto a pair of glasses. And when you've mounted onto a pair of glasses, the user is now able to put it on. And so somebody who has macular degeneration or Stargardt's or any central condition can now look over at a face. So myself looking at you, Chad, your face is now 2.2 times bigger and also closer. So you're almost as if...
I'm sorry that you're experiencing that.
I can handle it.
Okay, good.
And now, so being able to see loved ones' faces is so important with a lot of my patients. So this allows someone to be able to see a face as I'm seeing you right now. Whereas they can easily flip it up out of the way, and now it's back to the way it normally would be. So now you're a little bit further back. No, it
more comfortable,
Yeah, well, with this, it actually even made you appear closer as well. So it's great for TV watching, looking at faces. Based on the vision, if someone's going to a live sporting event or is going to the theater, the stage now comes to them. Or I say, if somebody's going to watch their grandkids at the park, they can be sitting at a bench and watching what the kids are doing from a distance. So allowing someone to have that extra vision for the distance. And I love the fact that it's portable, because up until now, a lot of them were separate devices,
Right.
but this you just easily clip on and clip off.
Yeah, as opposed to having to wear something bulky around your neck, like
Exactly.
binoculars or something along those lines.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, Dr. Juricic, we did receive a question coming through just now. Thank you for your questions and your comments. This is from Anne-Corette, or Anne-Corette, hopefully I'm pronouncing one of those versions of your name correctly, who is asking, I have great difficulty reading music when I play in the orchestra. Can you please help? Do you have any
Great
ideas?
question, Anne. I'll let you know, looking at a music stand has always been one of the more challenging areas for us as low vision optometrists to help someone. Until now, with the sight scope that I have here in my hand, there's actually a reading cap that can be put on. So it's all, again, dependent on your vision or someone else's vision who's looking at the music sheets. Because one thing is, when we start magnifying things, they're only able to see a certain amount of the notes and to be able to follow through.
Right.
But with the sight scope, we can actually put reading caps on there based on the distance of where the stand may be. And for some of my patients, that actually has made a difference. Or some of my artists who want to be able to paint and do murals, they can actually be now hands-free and see what they're seeing in front of them. Another device that's really interesting for that, so I'm glad you asked that question, Anne, and it's kind of a lead of where I was going to go, is that there are some various head-borne binocular units. So the one that I have in my hand is actually the brand new Juricic from Enhanced Vision. And some of you, if you've had low vision for quite some time, may be aware that there used to be another product, Juricic from Enhanced Vision, that was out from about 2000 to 2011. Well, this is the newest version that was released in summer of 2017, where it's now based on the new computer technology, high-definition cameras, and it's absolutely upgradable. So this device is a head-borne unit that a user would actually put on. And unlike all the other aids that I was talking about, this aid allows someone to be able to see things in the distance, intermediate, so the sheet music, and up close, because there's even a separate reading cap that the user can put in front simply and easily, and then they're able to see the reading up close. And there's a little control box that the user is able to change the magnification, or they can minify things, and also when it comes to reading, change the contrast, like I showed on the Visulux HD, where we can have the print appear white on black, or black on yellow, or enhanced black. So this category of devices is another area that for some people, for looking at the sheet music, they get that intermediate viewing as well.
Yes, that's really a device that does a lot of the things that you've kind of shown us in the separate devices.
Exactly, because most of the aids, when I talk about various vision aids, I let the patient know, think of it like you're having a toolbox. And most often, one tool is not going to have the ability to do everything that they need. So you might need a hammer, a screwdriver, various types of screwdrivers. Well, same thing when it comes to having vision aids. So many of the aids that I've talked about in the traditional aids are either for distance or near, and not for both, until we get into more the digital binocular units, like Juricic and the eSight. And iris vision, all of those have that ability to see things in the distance, intermediate, and up close. And another thing is, I'm really huge on technology, so that's been my passion really over the last decade plus, because I've seen such great advancements. Not only as we've been seeing the introduction of smartphones in 2007, the iPad in 2010, we've seen introduction of new aids when it comes to helping people with vision loss. And one that I'm really excited about, and I first came across, is one called the OrCam. And the OrCam is a technology out of Israel. And I first came across it as I was actually preparing for a lecture that I was talking about technology. And I came across this video where it showed this OrCam unit, where it's a camera system that can be mounted onto a side pair of glasses. And the camera, the original one, had a wire and it had this box. So think of it like a little mini computer. And when the user was wearing this, it would actually clip right onto a pair of glasses. And the camera would allow the user to be able to capture an image of text, and it would be able to read it back to them. And it's like you have your own virtual assistant. So anyone who's familiar with audiobooks, you'd be able to hold any book. take a picture of it, it captured the 2 pages, and it would start reading. And as soon as it captures the image, you can put the book down. You don't have to keep holding it. It's already captured it. And what they also did is they teamed it up with facial recognition. So you could store up to 100 faces on here. And it can actually pick up currency as well. So it knows to identify the difference between 20 Canadian dollars and a 10 Canadian dollar bill. It would say 10 Canadian dollars. Now if you're holding US, see in Canada we have lots of different colors to our money. When you go to the US, it all looks very much the same, especially if you have vision loss. It will actually tell you $10. So it doesn't say American, it just says $10 if it's US. It can also do color identification. So somebody had posted a question about what can you use for color ID. There's a separate color ID pen that some people get. Well, the OrCam can also do color identification as well. Now what I get excited about, see, the original OrCam with the wire got launched in the US in 2015. In Canada in June of 2016, and I was one of the first trainers to be trained with the device. Because I kept calling OrCam, when are you coming to North America? When are you coming? Because I recognized it filled a gap that some of my other aides couldn't fill in, especially someone who had very limited vision, or also someone who had no vision, who could only before rely on Braille and JAWS programming on the computer system. But here's a device that you can actually mount on the glasses. You can go to the grocery store, pick up a food package, and it would read it back to them.
It would read the label. That's
exactly.
Incredible. And
so in December of 2017, so just before Christmas last year, OrCam released OrCam 2.0. And I knew they were working on something wireless. I thought it would still have a connecting box. No. They actually created this as OrCam, the 2.0. And it is completely wireless. And this device still has the ability to actually take a picture. So if I even show you, and I have a little bracket with a magnet that's mounted onto this frame. And this can go onto almost any frame. And I always tell patients you put this around their neck, so that way if they're not needing to use it, they can actually just have it sitting around their neck when they're not needing it. So if I have this in front, there's different ways that I can actually activate the OrCam. So if I hold the page in front, I can tap the side.
How OrCam works, powered by a powerful proprietary algorithm.
So it will read the text. I don't have to hold it in front of me anymore. I can stop it by tapping it, but I can actually stop it by holding my hand out, doing the stop sign. So it picks up hand gestures.
Hand gestures, right.
It also identifies if I were to look down, and
The time is 4:22 a.m.
now the timestamp I have to change.
Today is Friday, February 23rd, 2018.
If you notice, I on purpose didn't use my hand with my watch.
Sure, right.
It's
just the gesture itself.
The gesture.
Right,
so that tells it it's time to tell the time. It's time to tell you the date.
Sure.
And
like I can see some value in that. You know, I'm fully sighted, but wouldn't that be nice just to not have to pull out your phone every time you want to know
And
the date?
if you're wearing this and you're looking towards me, so Chad, if you put this on and you're looking towards me, and I'm going to have you just tap the side of it, just kind of wait. Is it in the middle in the tap? Once, yeah?
Okay. No way.
So it just said my name.
Right.
So one of my patients saved my face.
Right, you've been loaded into this.
Exactly. So it does facial recognition.
That is so cool.
So it's this really groundbreaking device that I'm absolutely impressed with. I love seeing when companies really go beyond and have multi-functions to it. So this is what I always like to show towards the end of my exam with someone. I want my patients to be aware of all the various options. And there are a lot of options. Now, all these options might not be for every patient.
Sure.
But I want them to know that there's help that's available and that there might be hope, especially some conditions we know are progressive. And the worst thing is a patient being told that, well, nothing more can be done. Those were terms I used to hear when I first started practicing 21 years ago, and something I've been working to eradicate from specialists ever telling a patient, because there's always something there. It may not be through vision aids. It may be through computer magnifying programs on the computer, it could be JAWS, Kurzweil. Usually there's something there, but if a patient's told there's nothing more that can be done, it's devastating.
Absolutely.
And it's like, well, you know, why even go and try anything? It's not going to help me.
Right.
And I've had so many patients sit in my exam room that have had vision loss for, you know, a decade, 2 decades, thinking there was nothing more that could be done, and all of a sudden they're able to read again. They can see faces again, and it can be life-changing. And I've had many tears with patients in my exam room because I do recognize it can be very life-changing. And if I can make someone's life more independent, have them feel like they're contributing a lot more, then I know I've done my job. I enjoy what I get to do.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I mean, it's so clear to me how important the work is that you do and how important all of these technologies are. I mean, we speak to a lot of patients on the phone, patients who have retinitis pigmentosa, for example, and they're asking about, sometimes asking about treatments and what's coming down the pipe, and that's a difficult conversation to have because, of course, as we know, there's no cure for RP. There's nothing currently on the market in Canada, although Luxturna, as we've talked about many times, has received FDA approval, and that's now in the American market for a very specific genetic mutation.
Exactly.
But it's so hard to have that conversation with patients, so it's nice to know that, you know, we can send people to you and say there are options out there, even if you can't see anything, like even if your vision is completely deteriorated, there are still devices that will help you do things like the one you just showed us.
And I recommend any of the audience, if they have low vision or various degrees of vision impairment and they've never had a vision assessment, or they've a low vision assessment, or it's been quite some time that they've had one, find out who in your area does low vision assessments. See if there are these various aids that can help them. Now, the only unfortunate thing is there's not too many people in Canada who do this work. We're out there.
Right.
You might have to do some searching. But it's really been amazing to watch these advancements of where the vision aids are compared to where I first started when it was 21 years ago. Like what we had back then and what we have now, it's been a great improvement.
Yeah, it seems like there's been a lot of advancement. And we do have a question coming in from Saeed, who is asking, are you aware of a night vision aid, like an eyeglass that helps us see in low light?
You know, they've been trying to come up with a few various aids to do that. There's nothing that's great right now in the market. You know, often they'll recommend possibly using one of those headlamps that they can have, and some people even pick them up at Home
like
Depot.
A mining
well,
lamp,
exactly.
along those lines.
Or some people use one of these little flashlights when they're walking. So it's not quite there yet. I wouldn't be surprised if we have something that's really viable in the market within the next year or two that could have open up the doors to that area, because I've had that question in the past.
Okay.
I know they're working on it. I know that's probably not the answer that you want to hear, but I know that they are working on trying to come up with new solutions, especially at taking some of the technology that they use in military.
Sure. And
seeing how they can convert it to being something that could be useful in a commercial environment for somebody who has vision loss.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, now you've addressed this to some degree already because we've had a chance to talk a little bit about retinitis pigmentosa, but we did have a number of questions coming in from, for example, Khalid and Anil, who were asking about what you think some of the best assistive technologies are for RP specifically. And I know you and I have spoken about this a little bit already, and it's not an easy question to answer, but...
Yeah, because retinitis pigmentosa has so many different degrees and variations, and that's what I've gotten to appreciate over the years, that one RP patient that I have will vary from the next patient that I have. So it all really is based on how much central vision is still remaining. And if they have, you know, quite good central vision where it might be 20/80 or better, sometimes all a person with RP may need that could still benefit them without it being too much magnification is, like I said, a small dome magnifier. Because the big thing that we run into is when we talk about retinitis pigmentosa, because of the side vision or the peripheral field loss, there's that tunneling. And if we start magnifying things too much so they can appreciate centrally, part of what we've magnified falls into that zone that they don't see in the periphery. So we're making it too big and they can't make out what it is that we're seeing because of field of vision. is very small. So if the central vision is, like I said, 28 or better, sometimes utilizing something with just a little bit of magnification for reading can make a difference. I find a lot of my low vision patients with RP actually benefit from the digital technology where they're using that white on black. And it doesn't mean that they actually have to increase the magnification. It's just that ability to change the contrast where it's white on black seems to actually give them just enough of that viewing area to be able to appreciate, to make things easier. The OrCam now has been a great one for patients with retinitis pigmentosa because it's not relying on their vision, but relying on what the camera system can do with the optical character recognition, the facial recognition. So those are kind of the areas. Some of my patients have done well where we've done what's called a reverse telescope. So it's a little tiny telescope that has magnification about 2.5 times. So normally, traditionally, we'd have a person look through the magnifying part of the telescope. Well, with somebody with RP, if you reverse it, what happens now is we're minifying things that 2.5 times. So we can squeeze more information in their field of vision.
Right.
So where that gets to be handy is, you came into my office. You're not sure exactly where all the waiting room chairs are, where it's really going to be safe to navigate. Because remember, when you have the retinitis pigmentosa, many people have a history of tripping, falling, bumping into things because they don't see what's in front of them. And so with a reverse telescope, if they reverse it quickly, they get a perspective of what the room is. And they're like, okay, chairs are on this side, I can walk here, great, no coffee table, so I'm not going to bump into a coffee table. So you're not going to be walking constantly looking through it, but you're going to use it for quick viewing. And the one that I like, it actually has a little ring holder that you can actually have it attached, you can have in your pocket, or you can attach it to a lancet around your neck. So if you need to, you're in an unfamiliar area, you pop it in front really quickly. But the nice thing is you also have the ability to switch it around if you need that extra magnification. Now, if the vision's quite poor, then that's not going to help them very much. So again, it's based on the vision that they have.
Sure, yeah. So it's really patient specific, and it sounds to me like that's a lot of what you do, is you come in and you talk to someone and you assess what their actual vision needs are.
Yeah.
And it's not a kind of catch-all solution.
No.
So it's not like, oh, you have RP or you have AMD, therefore this is the device for you. It's based on where their vision is at. And also, we're using the term vision goals. So it's also based on what a specific individual may want, whether you want to read or whether you want to go jogging or whether you want to see mostly in the daytime or at nighttime. It sounds like you have to take a number of different factors into consideration.
Yeah, and when I spend doing an assessment on a patient, I spend between an hour and 15 minutes and an hour and a half with them.
Oh, wow.
Because there's quite a bit to show. And that's also for them to get that ability to try it out to see, okay, is this going to help? And sometimes the patient has to think about it. They go home to think, okay, yeah, actually that aid might actually help me to do this. So like I said, I like to actually show the various options based on their vision goals, but I also show them some of the additional things that they might not have thought of. Even going to the grocery store, being able to see the prices on a shelf, how to actually be able to use various aids that can help them that way. A big thing is my patients want to be independent. They don't want to have to rely on other people.
Sure.
And there are aids that can help some people reach that goal, and that's what I love to provide. That's
great. That's great. Well, it's so important. We did have someone ask about eSight, which is kind of a big name on the market for assistive technologies. Specifically, someone had asked whether there's any scientific evidence that the device works. Are you familiar with eSight at all?
Yeah, I am. Actually, our clinic was actually one of the first clinics in Canada to be part of the original eSight study. It was ESEE, and it was actually an evaluation of when the first eSight came out. We were a part of it where we had patients evaluate the eSight, where they got to take it home for 2 weeks based on if they were in a work environment or school environment and give us the feedback. And there was 3 clinics that were doing this throughout Canada, and we were one of them. Okay. And so the eSight is a head-borne digital binocular unit, similar category as the Juricic. So the design is a little bit different. It's actually from a Canadian company from Canada, Ontario, so I love the fact that it's a Canadian company. Yeah. And when we talk about any of that type of technology, the Juricic, the eSight, it all depends on the person. For some patients, it works great. And others, they may find it's too challenging. It's a totally different view because we're looking at these screens that are inside. Think of it like a virtual reality, pair of a head-borne device. And where the digital technology has that ability to be a little different than the traditional technology is, as I said, you can play around with the contrast level as well as the brightness. Because brightness sometimes is a big factor for people with vision loss, that things are just too dim. And when we talk about optical aids, we can't increase the brightness with this telescope, but we can improve vision optically. And so the digital devices have the ability to use other technology to try to enhance the vision. And what I recommend is, if that's something that any of the audience is thinking, contact eSight, contact us here at the office, trying out the Jordy. Try the device, see if it works for them, because without trying it, you're not going to know. And like I said, it works great for some people, and other people, it might not be what they're looking for. It might be too complicated. Some patients don't like all this technology with all the buttons, and I recognize that.
Sure.
And so it's really based on the person. There has been some information, some studies that have been done where they have some information on what success rates are out there. At the end of the day, it depends on that person trying it out and seeing if it's going to work for them. Is it going to fill a gap? Is it going to make a difference in their everyday life? And if any of the devices seem to actually help fill that gap and has that ability to get a person to see things that otherwise they wouldn't be able to see, or be able to recognize things like the OrCam doesn't see for you, but it helps recognize things for you, and it seems to be something worthwhile, something worth investigating and pursuing.
Right, yeah, so again, it's very specific to the individual.
Absolutely.
And what his or her needs are.
And what their vision is.
What their vision is,
their vision.
Yeah, their comfort level with technology, so maybe you don't want something that is too advanced or computerized, you want something a little bit more basic.
And some people with the digital technology, if they have something that's called a scotoma, those are these little blind spots. It can be central, it can be a little bit off, especially someone who has diabetic retinopathy. They have multiple areas where they don't see as well. We find that the digital technology has a way of sometimes making things big enough that that scotoma doesn't seem apparent. It doesn't eliminate the scotoma, but it actually, everything else is big enough that scotoma or the little blind spot is no longer really apparent for the person, or it feels like it fills it in for them. So that's something for any of the audience members who have these scotomas or blind spots. The digital technology actually may be the best choice for them for that reason. Sure,
yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Speaking of this kind of work being specific to the patient or to the individual, we do have someone who's asking about a particular person and their sort of vision needs. This is coming from Donna, who asked, or who would like to know what the best aids are for her mother, who is living with age-related macular degeneration. Specifically, her mother is 94 years old and hasn't had success using a tablet. So do you have any recommendations for aids that use speech recognition for someone like Donna's mom?
Yeah, great question, Donna, because I do see a lot of patients with macular degeneration. And so it all depends on where your mother's vision would be. And in terms of various reading aids, that's when we have the digital, like the Visualex HD, the 7-inch one. There is that bigger one that's coming out, the 12-inch one, the big CCTVs. Some of the big CCTVs actually do have the the text-to-speech, so they can read back. For people who are not, high-tech savvy this way, there's actually standalone units that don't have a screen but can actually do optical character recognition still and do the text-to-speech. Or the OrCam, again, is a great device. With the OrCam, keep in mind, if somebody has hearing loss and has poor hearing, then that audio component is going to be a limiting factor. But if their hearing's quite good, the OrCam and with that speech recognition, the text recognition and converting into speech is definitely a nice option. It's compact, so it's not just it would be for reading up close. That could be taken to the restaurant, being able to read a menu.
Right. Yeah.
What I didn't mention, the OrCam has the ability to even pick up text that's in the distance. So I tell my patients if they're at a food court and there's that menu in behind the counter. As long as it's text to print, and when I say that, if it's cursive or scripted text, it won't recognize it. But if it's text to print, they'd be able to actually even point their finger where they want it to read, because that's another way to activate the OrCam.
Really?
Holding your finger in front, the OrCam picks up the nail bed and it's like, okay, take a picture, read it back. And it would actually read that text back. And the other part that I forgot to mention about the OrCam, the newest version also can read Spanish and French.
Amazing.
So talk about a great one, especially here in Canada, for any of our bilingual patients who have any of these eye conditions. It can actually read it back. Won't translate it for you, but it will read it back with a little bit of a French accent.
Nice.
And the Spanish, of course, because in the U.S., you know, that's the second most common language spoken is Spanish in the U.S.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So maybe version 3.0 will actually translate as well.
You never know, you never know. And possibly in the future it might be that you'd be able to download the language, because that was specific for you, because they do have the German version that's available in Germany.
Right.
The Italian version. It, of course, does the Hebrew because it was done in Israel first.
Right.
And the OrCam 2.0, the new version, for it to be upgradable, it's actually based on the Wi-Fi connection. So if you set up the Wi-Fi setup, if there's an upgrade and it's picking up your Wi-Fi, it automatically will upgrade it for you without you having to do anything.
That's wonderful.
Isn't that amazing?
So just like so many of the other modern devices on the market, it kind of operates along the same principles.
Yeah, and soon there'll be a Bluetooth headpiece, like a earpiece that will be attached to it as well.
Great.
Yeah, the OrCam actually won a big award at the Las Vegas Consumer Electronics Show in January.
Okay.
So for being one of the most innovative products in the last gadget standing competition. So I love seeing when they're recognizing technology that has this amazing useful purpose, making a difference in people's lives.
Yeah. So when you were saying you point at something, is that's how it works? You point at
that was the
text that
original
you
way.
want it to read. So I could point at like a sign in the distance, and it will detect where my finger is.
Yeah. So with this
That's
OrCam,
incredible to me.
I can even just have my finger on a section. So instead of reading the whole page, it would just read about 3 lines above my finger.
Right.
It also can be set up that, you know, people who have issues with manual dexterity. So if someone has arthritis, often their fingers bend so it won't be able to pick up that nail bed.
Sure.
And if they have issues in terms of tapping the side, which is one way to activate it as well. The third way is you just hold something in front for 5 seconds, holding it still. And as long as the unit's on, it knows it's time to read.
Right.
And it actually just reads it.
That's great.
Yeah.
The things they're doing with image recognition, voice recognition, all the advancements in both software and hardware, it's really taking us interesting places in the world of assistive technologies.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you so much for showing us all that you have here and giving us a glimpse into the incredible work that you do. So many of you were asking questions about what's happening in the world of vision research, and obviously that's something that we talk about quite a bit. So we won't kind of dwell on that today. We'll return to that subject matter for our next Facebook Live session. Today was really all about coming into Dr. Juricic's office and getting a look at some of these incredible technologies and learning about what they can do. Now, of course, we'll put Dr. Juricic's contact information on the page so that you can reach out to her if you would like to come and get a sense of what your needs are and what can be done. That's something that we'll absolutely do. And yeah, I just want to thank you so much for welcoming us into your office and lending us your expertise. Do all the things that I normally ask you to do, or that Mary normally asks you to do, which is follow us on Facebook, stay tuned for updates, and sign up for our e-news, because that's typically how these Facebook Live sessions work. You read our e-news, and then we talk about e-news on the following Facebook Live session. So that's it for us today. Thank you once again for having us.
You're very welcome, and I love the work that Foundation Fighting Blindness is doing, and the awareness. So yes, if anyone hasn't signed up for the FFB newsletter that's emailed them on a monthly basis, I tell my patients all the time, that's going to be your best way to keep on top of all the vision research that's out there, and being in touch with whatever's new. So that's great that you guys are always providing that, and I'm impressed that Foundation Fighting Blindness has been around for over 40 years, and it's one organization that I am very happy to support. So I'm very thankful that you're able to come to this office. And for people who don't know, I have a satellite clinic now in the west end of Toronto as well. So there's 2 offices now that I'm able to provide these services. But as I mentioned, if anyone has that vision impairment, they haven't seen this new technology, hasn't had an assessment, reach out, find someone who can, especially if you're not in the area in Toronto. There are other colleagues of mine who do this work, and if you want me to help try to locate somebody, by all means, you can reach out to me and I'll see what I can do to locate someone in your community, because I think it's such an underserviced area in all of Canada, and if more people could get the help that's available, it makes my day.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thanks for offering that. Thanks for the work that you do. This has been incredibly illuminating for me. I hope that that's the case for you as well. Stay tuned and stay in touch. And thanks again, Dr. Juricic. We'll see you next time. Take care, everyone.